is Lisa from Life in Layouts, and today I have another Stretch the Sketch. This month we are using this sketch to stretch it, and the whole point of this series is to make a one-page layout into either a double page, or you can shrink it down to a 6x12 or a traveler's notebook. And of course, because I do double page layouts, and I have had lots of requests to continue making these one-page sketches into two-page layouts, I thought I would go ahead and join this team so that I don't have to pick out the sketches, is really what's behind that. And I think that I really like that idea in regards to just not having to think about which sketches work well with stretching. If the sketch is given to me, then I can find a way to stretch it. I can always do that. So what I decided to do was take the center piece of that sketch, which you can see in the upper right hand corner, and my goal is to take that piece and stretch it across the layout. So I am going to leave pretty much the background pieces just like they are. So you can see here I'm working with that blue paper that has the yellow stars on it, as well as that green polka dotted paper. I'm going to bring in the plus sign paper on the gray. And those three pieces are going to be my main background pieces that you can see from the sketch. Once I get those down, then I start to work with the photos. I am going to cut down 4 of the photos to 4x4. And I originally thought that I would use the 4x4 photos across the layout to mimic the 3 photos that are on the sketch. But because I had additional photos, I wanted to make those work. So I end up changing it up a little bit on the right-hand side of the layout. So here you can see where I have those photos laid out. This is where I have decided that I just have too many photos for my layout. I do go ahead and pull out a 12x6 insert, and my thought with that 12x6 insert was to add 2 photos to the left-hand side. So you'll see a photo of the donkey and then also a photo of my friend feeding, I think it's a cow. And then on the other side of the layout, the 6x12 layout, what I decided to do was go ahead and add the sketch again. So you can see how the sketch can be stretched to a 12x24, so a double page layout, or you can see how the sketch is shrunk down to a 6x12. So I thought that it was pretty cool that I was able to give you kind of both dynamics there. I do pull out my Creative Memories circle cutter set. I've had this for years. I don't know if it's still available, but I am sure that you can find them on eBay or other places if they're not available through a CM representative. They are fabulous, fabulous circle cutters. If you have not ever used them, I've had these probably at least 15 years. I only have 2 sets of blades, like the original blades that come with it, and then I purchased the new set that has like the blade moves, so it just makes it easier to cut it, and have never had any issues with either one of them. So what I have down is the blue paper with the yellow stars, and then I also have the plus sign paper. I did go ahead and bring in the circle green polka dotted paper, and that way I had all of the same papers that I had on the left hand side of the layout in this 6x12 insert. Now I didn't have a lot of kind of solid paper left in this collection, so I pulled out this diagonal stripe paper, and because I am just using a 6x12, I knew that I could pull in some of those stripes papers. So I went ahead and cut out the like tangerine orange color with the white stripes. And then I used my circle cutter to also cut out one of the hearts in a circle shape that says today. So these photos are of my friend and her family when they went to the Arkansas-Oklahoma State Fair, and she lives really close to the Oklahoma state line and crosses over into Oklahoma quite a bit, even though she lives in Arkansas. Like, it's one of those that she's just right on the border. So I'm assuming that the state fair is held together for that same reason. Now that I have gotten the 6x12 figured out I'm going to go ahead and continue making the right hand side of the layout. And I did go ahead and piece these pieces together just to make them larger than what they were. So by cutting out the center piece that's going to be behind that yellow paper, I was able to extend the plus sign paper as well as that green tone-on-tone polka dotted paper. Whenever I'm doing a double page layout and I am stretching the sketch, or even just taking and using one idea that I have and I'm going to be using it on either the left or the right hand side of the layout, what I try to do is use the paper that I used on the left hand side of the layout, but in an opposite dimension shape. So what you'll notice there is that the blue paper with the yellow stars on it on the left hand side of the layout has a very strong prominence. Like, it's the largest piece of paper on the left hand side. So I just cut a strip on the right hand side, a lot smaller. The same for the green polka dotted tone-on-tone paper. It is probably the second biggest piece of paper on the left hand side, and it's still kind of in the middle, but still significantly smaller than what it was on the left hand side of the layout. So just keep that in mind if you are creating your layouts and you're trying to make your 2 pages work. At least for me, that is what really works for me. I try to, make the paper larger on one side and smaller on the other, if that makes sense. I don't know if it does or not, but in my head it makes sense. So I'm hoping that it comes across to you guys as making sense as well. I did use the 6x12 to help with making sure that that gold paper is lined up so that when you're looking at it in the album, it does have that flow. Even though I use a 3-ring binder or a D-ring binder so they don't lay flat up against each other, I feel like as long as they're close, then it gives it that cohesive look. That orange striped paper that I cut in the circle, I didn't have a full sheet of that. It was just a cut apart. And so I just cut it out as big as I could. And then I knew I was going to tuck it behind that striped paper as well as the orange with the bows. So I knew that it wouldn't be that big of a deal to have kind of a wonky shaped circle. You notice this is where I go ahead and change out my photos. I had those 2 4x6 photos on the far right hand side, and then I had the 2 4x4 photos, and instead of them going straight across in a line, I went ahead and lined them up one on top of the other. I then pulled out all of the ephemera pieces that I thought would work with this layout. This ephemera piece didn't come in like a package like most of them do. This one came like on a sheet that you had to tear out, and I went ahead and left them on that sheet just simply because it's a lot easier to look through them on that sheet as opposed to like actually going through them. So it's very similar to when I put my embellishments on page protectors. So my title is going to end up being Awesome Good Time, and I went ahead and put down that Good Times up on fun foam right above the picture, and here in a minute I'm going to add the word awesome. These little triangles or arrows, I love them. I love the fact that they have the tone-on-tone color, and it just is a cool accent there. Now I'm going to start my embellishing, and I decided to start with the embellishments on the 6x12 first. And I think I've said this before, that if you're struggling with your clusters, if you start out with your largest clusters touching, so I think if you follow Nicole Jones 911, I think she calls them foundation clusters and then finishing clusters. I've watched her videos several times, and so if you ever go check her out, I would highly recommend her. She's got some great ideas in regards to clustering. But when you're starting out, it's, at least for me, and the way that I make my clusters work is that my bigger pieces of my cluster, so my foundation piece, like in the right hand side of the layout, that ticket, and then that little circle tab that says loving every second, those both touch. And then over there where the heart is and that flower, you'll notice that they also all touch. Now with the finishing pieces, like the really tiny embellishments, like the tiny hearts or enamel dots or shapes, brads, things like that, that are kind of your finishers, the last pieces that you're going to put on, I don't feel like those have to touch. I feel like those are small enough that they can go out a little bit from the embellishment cluster and still work. So I hope that I explained that very well. I know a lot of folks struggle with it. I don't feel like I am, you know, the best person when it comes to embellishment clusters. I do like the way that my clusters look, and I'm not sure if, you know, everyone else likes the way that their clusters look. And I'm not sure if everyone else likes the way that my clusters look, but they work for me, and I like that the way they turn out. So that's my recommendation. Your bigger pieces, have them touch, and then those smaller pieces like enamel dots, brads, things like that, those don't necessarily have to touch, but kind of keep them close. So you can see right there in the close-up of that teal heart with the white and yellow heart, that was not necessarily touching, but they were still pretty close. I do encourage you to go check out all of the other ladies that are stretching this sketch. I am sure that they're going to give you fabulous ideas in regards to how you can make this sketch anything but a one-page layout. Here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. If you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layouts, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because that's all you're going to get on my channel. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.